Well, it just keeps getting better. Every time I look on my computer and I see some mainline news about Andrew Tate, I just got to see what they're saying now. Okay, the thing now is they're talking about where he said that women, basically what they're saying is Tate said it was women's fault if they got graped. That he said they should take some responsibility for it. They should bear the responsibility. I'm not quite sure exactly. I think that's the way one of them said it. They each say it a different way, but basically what they're trying to get you to believe is that it's a woman's fault if this happens to her. And that is not what he said at all. He was telling them that they need to take personal responsibility. But even that sounds bad if you don't explain it in context. But it amazes me how they take little bits and pieces and they throw it out there for you to make him look like a bad guy. Why do they want him to look like a bad guy? Why are they trying to destroy his reputation, destroy the power of his word? As I said yesterday, throughout history, some of the greatest leaders of all time have been persecuted, ridiculed, eliminated, crucified, etc., because of the power of their spoken word. At the time of their lives, many people loved them and followed them, and many people wanted to destroy them. And we have the same thing here with Andrew Tate. If you're on the other side of this, you can't imagine how somebody could actually look up to him and admire him. But then the people who do look up to him and admire him wonder how the other people could be so hateful towards him. It's like we each hear a different message, but I think sometimes we don't really listen to the whole message. We have, what's it called, confirmation bias? We only hear what we want to hear and discount what we don't want to hear. And I'm sure I do it too. It's a natural thing for humans to do. If it goes against our beliefs, we turn it off or we discard it. We don't accept it. It's a rare person that can take both sides and listen to them and try to think of it from their point of view. Now, of course, obviously I'm for Tate, but I still try to see how someone could be on the other side, and I certainly understand how you could be. He's kind of a frightening individual if you don't understand really where he's coming from. But you really must keep an open mind. His message is a message of empowerment for men, not disempowerment for women. They also call him a misogynist because you understand the term misogynist means someone who hates women. Now, if he truly hated women, why do women constantly flock to him? He can have just about any girl that he wants, but yet he's labeled as a woman hater, someone who's severely prejudiced against women. And that's another thing we talk about nowadays too. If anyone has a different opinion than what the narrative is or the mainline agenda, all of a sudden they're labeled as a hater. But it's just their view. It's their view on life, their view on men, their view on women. I mean, many gay people say that people who don't like the gay lifestyle are homophobic. But just because they don't like or agree with a certain lifestyle does not mean they're scared to death of people that have that lifestyle. I may not agree with many things, but I allow people to live and to let live. And that's what we really need to do. If he is influencing young people, which Tate is, can't we give the young people the, how would I say it, realize that they have a brain and they can think for themselves, and if it is a bad influence, as they grow, they can find out if that works for them or it doesn't work for them. We don't give people enough credit for being able to use their own minds. And that goes along with a lot of the censorship we've been having lately. Why can't we as individuals decide what we think is good for us and what is not good for us? If you don't want your children listening to Andrew Tate, take the cell phone away from them. We act like we're powerless over the social media. Your children don't have to have phones. They don't have to be in their phones all the time. If you don't want your children to watch that, you're the parents, then don't allow them to watch it. And if you don't like the message he's sending, then sit down and talk to your children about it and explain your point of view to them, rather than just cutting them off and saying he's a bad guy. As I've said, it amazes me how people, and I get the haters on my channel, they can't have a conversation with you and disagree without attacking your character. Let's say you don't agree, as I said, with what his message is. Why do you have to attack his character? I mean, there are many people I don't agree with. There's a guy on Vice that I don't agree with. I don't even understand his point of view, and I've tried to. I can't wrap my head around it, other than he's had different life experiences than I've had. But I don't have to say he's a terrible person or a bad person or he's an idiot or he's stupid. I don't have to say that about him. He just has a different worldview than I have. Why don't we allow everyone to have their own worldview? And if someone follows that person that you don't like, give that person enough credit that he will figure out whether that's good for him or not good for him. And of course you may say, well, these are kids, they can't tell. I don't know, are the kids now just dumber than I was when I was young? But when I was 13 years old, I knew the difference between right and wrong as judged by the society I lived in here in the US. I knew what was good or bad, and I learned as I went. Did I make mistakes? Of course I did, but I learned from those mistakes. So let's allow young people to learn. They're going to look up to someone. I looked up to people that were alcoholics, but yet they taught me things that helped me to be kind to other people. One of my best friends, a guy by the name of Larry, just got back from Vietnam. I'm pretty sure he was addicted to heroin when he was in the service, like a lot of men were, to try to cope with the war situation. As far as I know, he didn't do it when he came back, but he drank. He drank every day. But that guy would do anything for anybody if they needed help. And at that time, I needed a mentor, and he helped me. He treated me good. He treated me with respect. He made me feel important. And because of that man, I didn't go off and do anything stupid. He didn't teach me how to rob, steal, take advantage of people. Actually, the opposite. And one day I was out, and I run into a woman that grew up in the same area as he did. And his name came up, and she said, he had passed on by then. He drank all his life. Probably died from alcoholism. And she said, what a waste of life it was. She had no idea how many people that guy helped. See, because we don't know. We judge by just what little we know sometimes. And even the people we look at, and maybe the people I look at that I don't like what they're doing, I think they're a bad influence, that person touches so many people's lives in his life or her life that you don't know the good that that person is doing. We always focus on the negativity, and the mainline news especially focuses on the negativity. You could take especially if a person has money or fame, wealth, notoriety. They can make one mistake, and that is blasted all over social media, all over news media, everywhere. Everybody's jumping on that. But they never talk about the hundreds of good things this person does. Only the bad. The news should be called negativity. Well, let's listen to this. This is what Tate says about the controversial statement that the mainline news just puts a little bit out there to get you to think that he is a terrible person and wants women to be hurt.
And talk about your bullshit, but to take some degree of personal responsibility and not put yourself in a dangerous situation. I'm not saying that's going to prevent all rape. I'm not saying that rape is okay. Rapists should be executed. I'm not saying that every single woman who was ever assaulted could have prevented it. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying the smartest thing a woman can do is say, this is dangerous. Going home with this guy I just met is dangerous. Walking through this area all by myself is dangerous. Let me call a taxi. Let me call my brother. Let me go with my husband. Isn't that a more intelligent way to teach women to prevent themselves?
Isn't that good advice? Isn't that good advice? Does that sound like someone who hates women? Or does it sound like someone who's given women advice to protect themselves so they won't be hurt?
Being raped, as opposed to telling them you can do whatever you want, walk around in the middle of the night naked, it's no problem, men shouldn't rape, men are the problem. I said, what you're trying to do is illogical. What I'm trying to say will actually prevent rape. So what you're saying, when you're telling girls do whatever you want, men are the problem, you're convincing women to put themselves in situations where bad things might happen to them. Whereas I'm saying, listen, woman and men. Look after yourselves. I'm a full-grown man, 4-time kickboxing world champion. There's places I don't go alone. Like, I came...
That's a good point there. There's places I won't go alone. When I lived in Latin America, I was always watchful. I didn't go out at night past 10 o'clock by myself, a gringo down there, because there was a real good chance I would get robbed. And let's say I did get robbed. What am I doing out there? I know it's dangerous, unless I had to go out for some emergency. Now, does that make it my fault I got robbed, or is he saying it's a woman's fault if something bad happens to her? He's not saying that. He's saying we must take responsibility. I know it's dangerous. Why am I going out like that? Why am I going out there when I know there's a really good chance I might get robbed? Unless I go out with a guard or a weapon. I have to take responsibility for that.
I came here with security. That's called being an intelligent adult. So this is what I was trying to say. I was trying to say women need to protect themselves and bear some responsibility to make sure they don't put themselves in situations where bad things can happen to them easily.
Okay, so then we have...
There's places right here in my city, in St. Louis, that I would not go after dark. I'll give you a good example. I went to bid a job a couple of years down in St. Louis, and the neighborhood that I went to was abandoned buildings, people hanging out on the porches, looked like they might have been making drug deals. I didn't get out to bid the job because I knew it was a dangerous area. And actually, when I got home, I talked to a friend of mine who had lived down there, and I asked him about the area, and he told me, yeah, it was a good thing he didn't get out of the car. So let's say I get out and just start walking around and flashing money around down there, and I get robbed. What do you think the police are going to say to me? What are you doing that for? They're not going to take me very seriously because I've got to use some common sense. And really, that's all Tate is talking about here, is to use some common sense. We tell women that they should just be able to go out and do whatever they want to. Yes, in a perfect world, but it's not a perfect world. If it were, I could go anywhere in St. Louis at any time of day I wanted to, or night, and not worry about anything. But I can't. As a man, I can't. Okay, so as a woman, his message is, use some common sense, take care of yourself, don't do stupid things. I see women wanting to be equal to men, and I think we are all equal in the eyes of God. Nothing wrong with that, but yet they don't want, not all of them, but most of them don't want to take accountability. It's never their fault. Well, if you go down to St. Louis as a beautiful woman, certain parts of town, you walk around scantily dressed at night, you're asking for problems. Now, does that mean it's your fault? No, that's not what I'm saying. But take some responsibility. Don't do things like that. As I said, in a perfect world, you should be able to do whatever you want to, but we don't live in a perfect world. As a man, I'm not going to go to the same place that I just talked about you going to and walk around with money hanging out of my pocket. I wouldn't go down there walking around just walking around without any money hanging out of my pocket. It's dangerous for me also. So wouldn't the wise thing to do be to stay away from places like that? That's me taking personal accountability, bearing responsibility for my actions and my location and what I do. It's really just as simple as that. But as I said at the beginning, mainline news media takes this and they put one little thing on there and they paint it up like he's some monster and it's all women's fault and they're stupid, etc., etc. And they're not, and that's not what he's saying. But they're not going to tell you that. They're not going to tell you the whole conversation. They're going to play it out of context to try to get you to watch, to get you angry at him. The news wants you to feel a certain way. They want you to feel because they're just like a movie. It's all about drama and not much about reporting the truth. All right? That's all I got for today. Take care. Have a wonderful day. And remember, it's up to you, whatever you want to do.